Ethan was not someone who believed in ghost stories or local folklore. So when the elders of Oakhaven warned everyone to stay away from the Whispering Woods, he simply smiled and went about his day. He was a photographer, always chasing the perfect shot where light meets shadow. One chilly autumn afternoon, armed with his camera, Ethan stepped past the rusted iron gates and into the dense forest. The air inside felt instantly colder. The towering oak trees stretched their gnarled branches like skeletal fingers, filtering the sunlight into eerie golden beams. He walked deeper and deeper, captivated by the surreal beauty, completely unaware that the path behind him was slowly fading away. Hours passed, and the forest grew dense and labyrinthine. Ethan realized he was hopelessly lost. Just as panic began to tighten in his chest, he heard it, the faint, haunting melody of a flute. He followed the sound to a hidden clearing where a crystal-clear stream flowed. There, sitting on a moss-covered rock, was a girl. She wore a flowing emerald-green dress that seemed to blend with the foliage. Her hair was as dark as a raven's wing, and her eyes held the depth of the ocean. When she stopped playing and looked up at him, Ethan's heart skipped a beat. She didn't look afraid. She looked as if she had been waiting for him. "You shouldn't be here," she said, her voice sounding like the rustling of soft leaves. "I got lost," Ethan stammered, lowering his camera. "I'm Ethan. I am Clara," she replied softly. Instead of showing him the way out, Clara invited him to sit by the stream. They talked for hours. Ethan spoke of the bustling city, his dreams and his cameras. Clara spoke of the wind, the language of the birds, and the secrets of the earth. Ethan noticed strange things. She left no footprints on the muddy banks, and the forest animals seemed to bow in her presence. Yet he was too captivated by her smile to care. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in bruises of purple and orange, Clara stood up. "You must leave before the moon reaches its peak, Ethan. The forest changes at night." "Will I see you again?" Ethan asked, desperately grabbing her hand. Her skin was ice cold, yet it sent a jolt of warmth straight to his heart. "If you can find this clearing tomorrow at dusk, I will be here," she whispered, giving him a gentle push toward a path that suddenly appeared out of nowhere. When Ethan stepped out of the woods, he felt as if he had been dreaming, but the memory of Clara's eyes told him it was all too real. The next day, Ethan returned. And the day after that. Weeks turned into months. Every evening, Ethan would brave the eerie woods just to spend a few precious hours with Clara. Their bond grew into a deep, consuming love. They shared kisses that tasted of wild berries and winter frost. Ethan learned that Clara belonged to the forest. She was a guardian spirit bound to the woods by an ancient curse. She could never leave, and no mortal was ever supposed to see her. But Clara didn't care about the rules anymore. In Ethan's arms, she felt human. Back in the village, people began to notice Ethan's transformation. He was pale, distracted, and his eyes looked hollow yet wildly alive. His camera sat gathering dust, filled only with photos of an empty forest clearing, for Clara never appeared in his developed photographs. An old village elder, Thomas, stopped Ethan one morning. "You smell of the deep woods, boy," Thomas warned, his voice trembling. "There are things in that forest that feed on mortal souls. They lure you with beauty, but they demand a blood price. Stay away, or the woods will claim you." Ethan brushed him off, blinded by his devotion to Clara. One evening, as Ethan and Clara sat wrapped in each other's arms, the forest suddenly went dead silent. The birds stopped singing, and the wind died down. Clara stiffened, her eyes wide with terror. "They know," she whispered, her voice shaking. "Who knows?" Ethan asked, looking around the darkening woods. "The keepers of the root," Clara said, tears welling in her eyes. "The ancient spirits who rule this forest. They know a mortal has defiled the sacred grounds. They know I love you." Suddenly, loud, guttural growls echoed from the shadows, and the trees seemed to close in around them. "Run, Ethan." "You must run," Clara cried, pushing him away. "I'm not leaving you." Ethan shouted, but the ground beneath him began to shake. Gnarled roots erupted from the dirt, snapping at his ankles like wild beasts. Shadowy figures with glowing red eyes emerged from behind the trunks. Clara raised her hands, chanting in an ancient language. A barrier of green light erupted around Ethan, shielding him from the dark entities. "Go! If you stay, they will tear your soul apart." she screamed. With a breaking heart, Ethan turned and ran, the horrific sounds of the forest echoing close behind him. Ethan made it out alive, but his soul remained in the forest. For 3 days he tried to re-enter the woods, but the trees literally shifted to block his path. He couldn't sleep, he couldn't eat. The thought of Clara suffering because of him was driving him insane. On the 4th night, under a blood-red full moon, Ethan grabbed a heavy iron axe. He didn't care about his life anymore. He only cared about saving the girl he loved. He broke through the brambles, cutting his way into the screaming woods, determined to find the clearing one last time. When Ethan finally burst into the clearing, his heart shattered. Clara was bound to a massive, dead oak tree by thorny vines that drew black blood from her skin. Surrounding her were giant, faceless, shadowy figures holding spears made of sharpened stone. "Ethan, no. Why did you come back?" Clara wept, her voice weak. "Because a life without you isn't a life at all," Ethan said, stepping forward. The largest shadow spirit stepped forward, its voice sounding like grinding stones. "Mortal, you have broken the ancient law. For the crime of loving a spirit, the sentence is death. If you surrender your life willingly, the girl will be spared and freed from her curse." Ethan looked at Clara. She was pale, dying. He smiled at her, tears streaming down his face. "I accept," Ethan said softly. "No, Ethan, please." Clara screamed, thrashing against her bonds. Ethan dropped his axe and walked toward the center of the clearing. He looked into Clara's eyes for the very last time, memorizing every feature. "I love you," he whispered. A shadow spirit raised a dark, jagged spear and plunged it straight through Ethan's heart. Ethan collapsed onto the mossy ground. As his life ebbed away, the thorny vines binding Clara turned into beautiful blooming white roses and snapped. She was free. Clara rushed to Ethan's side, gathering his breathless body into her arms, howling in pure, agonizing grief. Her tears fell onto his chest, mixing with his blood. The curse was broken. The spirits vanished into the night, leaving the forest peaceful once more. Clara didn't leave the woods. Instead, she buried Ethan under the great oak tree. Today, the village elders say that if you walk by the Whispering Woods on a moonlit night, you can see 2 figures, a boy with a camera and a girl in an emerald dress, walking hand in hand through the trees, finally free to love each other for eternity.